Hey everybody, Ben here from Cinderblock Studios, and today I'm back with another product review. Today we're looking at Liquitex Professional Acrylic Spray Paint. So there's a lot of different brands of spray paint out there, but what makes Liquitex's particular brand of spray paint so different? A lot of standard spray paints made for artists from companies like Iron Lac, Montana, and MTN all kind of have a consistent understanding of what you might think spray paint when you think about it in your head. You're going to think of something in a spray can, comes out, goes onto a surface. If you're using one of those brands, you're probably going to be doing some street art. But they all kind of have a smell to them. And what's different about the Liquitex spray paint is there is no smell. The Liquitex spray paint is designed for indoor studio use, and for that reason using a more of a water base than sort of a base that's on sort of whatever the propellant is, or like an alcohol base or whatever is actually in regular spray paints. I'm actually not really sure. This stuff doesn't have that odor to it, and that's what makes it, I think, really valuable for artists. Another thing you will probably notice about this paint right away is that unlike a lot of other paint companies, specifically spray paint companies, these colors are actually called whatever the color is. So this is cadmium red medium hue. It's labeled like a color. In other spray paint lines, you're going to see what are sort of known as designer colors, things like traffic light red or grass green, which is nice and interesting, but anyone who's been used to studio painting, tube paints, anything like that for a long period of time, those funny color names aren't really helpful. And these color names, being something that you can relate back to a tube of paint, are a little bit more easy to understand. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the usage of these cans. So specifically, the cans themselves, the caps, and how to go about cleaning them for the long term. This is actually something that if you're not used to working with spray paint, you're going to notice right away, and you might think it's a problem, which is what I did, but I soon realized that if you're not using the entire can all at once, you kind of really have to take care of it in order to make sure that it lasts and continues to work properly. So Liquitex introduced their spray paint line a couple of years back, and in the past, I would say about maybe a year and a half, they've kind of made some upgrades to the cans themselves. So this is what the old can actually looked like. Liquitex logo, relatively dark label, whole lot of tiny information on the back that you can't really read from a distance. And it kind of gives you some general instructions. General instructions with any can is make sure that you shake it for 2 minutes. Now there are some other spray paints, specifically ones like the Liquitex one that's not necessarily water-based. You can kind of get away with maybe 30 seconds to a minute, especially if you've been spraying a lot more recently. But this, you really have to mix this up. If you don't shake that can for 2 minutes, you're going to have clogging issues. Now, additionally, the caps have kind of been an issue for a long time. Liquitex is slowly kind of fixing that. I keep a whole bag of extra spare caps because they tend to clog, and that's the one thing that you will find with this paint is that it clogs up the caps if you're not kind of really watching. Now I keep a whole mess of these extra caps around. This was the original cap design. It's what you're going to find if you buy the caps in bulk. Black cap with also a black sort of nozzle spray. The newer caps, that little center nozzle piece is white, and that's how you'll be able to distinguish the old caps from the new ones. Now again, old can. The new can, they changed up the design. It's now white. That black section with the logo is just on top. All the information is a lot easier to read. There's sort of sticker labels. Anything that's in a big list is like extra languages and stuff that you probably don't really need unless English is not your first language. And it's generally, I think, a lot more appealing to see this in a store than this, but that's a design thing, not really that important. One thing that I think they did really do is they improved a lot just of the cans themselves. I think they're the same size. I feel like, I don't know what it is about the new cans that just feels better in your hand. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the way that the paint is on the, like this feels just like cold aluminum. This feels like you have a little bit more of a grip to it, but you know, semantics really. Now again, when you go to spray, you're going to be shaking it, hopefully for 2 minutes, and then kind of just laying out simple little spritzes on whatever you work on, or maybe big lines. I don't know how you work with spray paint. And then when you're done with the cap, it's important to clean the cap. Now Liquitex themselves sells this special, there it is, cap cleaner. Now while this stuff I will spray in the studio, this stuff I will not. This stuff I will actually go into my garage for, because it's a cap cleaner, it has a solvent in it. This stuff will smell. So make sure if you are cleaning your caps, you're going to be doing it in a well-ventilated area. Now you don't necessarily have to use this stuff. I just think it helps, kicks the longevity of your caps up a little bit more. The basic way to clean a cap is to turn the spray can upside down, spray down until it runs clear. When it does, your cap is usually clean enough. But if you want to get a little more usage out of your caps, again, one cap like this, just straight upside down spraying, the old-fashioned caps or even some of the new ones, you're going to get maybe 3 to 5 spray sessions out of that cap. Now I use maybe a tiny little bit of spray on a canvas and then kind of go into something else. So I'm like, one can of this is probably going to last me a year because I'm not using it constantly or more. So I need to make sure the caps last me at least like a quarter of that amount of time, so I'm not constantly switching them out. So again, I'll clear that by turning it upside down. After that, it's 3 seconds spray with the cap cleaner right side up. Make sure I kind of clean out any extra paint, which some does come out. And then after that, and you can kind of use just soapy water. I've gotten in the habit of keeping my extra caps soaking in mineral spirits to really be sure that anything comes out of that. If you're not going to be doing any of that, you just want to use just the spray, then get yourself some extra caps. Trust me, it's going to be worth it. Now, if you're someone who's used to a lot of traditional street art, specifically graffiti style stuff, if you're going to be tagging some things, I probably wouldn't take one of these cans with you. If anything, a small Montana can or just even something cheap you might find at the hardware store is probably going to be good for that. Not that I'm endorsing going out and tagging mailboxes or anything like that, but I'm just saying this stuff is designed for an artist of a slightly different mentality. So all that said, let's talk a bit about the pros and cons here. Now, I've kind of covered them a little bit already, but let's just kind of run down the list. First thing on the pro side is this stuff is great for integrating directly into your work on canvas, wood, or any other substrate you happen to be working on. If you're a muralist, this will apply really great to walls of any type, but I do find that if you're used to a lot of brush work, if you need something that's going to integrate more easily than you might get out of a traditional spray paint, either a hardware store spray paint or even something more of an artist grade spray paint, but you need that transition period, this stuff's going to be really good for that. Additionally, because the company is Liquitex, again, the pigment information is listed directly on the can. So you're going to be able to match it with your traditional color set. And if you're really specific to using Liquitex products, you're actually going to be able to match the exact same colors. So this particular blue with another tube or a liquid blue to really kind of just jump back and forth between the different viscosities as well as the different applications of that paint. And of course, coming from a sort of personal note, I find that these cans are really kind of affordable. They run roughly $6.99 to $7.99 depending on where you're getting them. Sometimes a little bit more, whether it's wholesale or not. But these are really reasonably priced cans. A lot of the Montana cans you're looking at individually, maybe $9 to $12 and up, depending on the. Again, I'm not just specifically saying Montana. It's just the one. It's like that and Iron Lac, and they're the ones that everybody knows. These are a lot more entry level in terms of their price, and I think they're a lot more affordable that way. Plus, I think they do last a long time. If you're not going to be using them constantly, one of these cans will kind of keep you going for a while. Now, again, on the cons, the cap care is frustrating. It's something that you can kind of, it sets you back. When I first had one of these cans, I sprayed for a while and the cap clogged, but I didn't think about it that way because I would push down on it and nothing would happen. I thought the little pin mechanism inside was jammed, and I've actually had that happen because I clogged the cap and then continued to try and spray and then clogged the pin mechanism, which you can fix, but it's a royal pain in the butt. But that cap care and that extra bit of need to do that, specifically with these particular cans, is something that not everybody is probably going to be up for. Again, if you need that indoor studio use, which is why you have these, then it's going to be just something you kind of work into your set. And it's not really Liquitex's fault, because it's really the formulation of the paint that's doing it. If this was something with maybe a high VOC content and you're getting something that has that strong like aerosol odor to it that a lot of spray varnishes have as well, then you're not going to have maybe the problem with the caps clogging as much, but you're also not going to be able to use it in the studio. So again, cap care is a big thing. not just taking care of them, but having a whole lot of extra ones, especially if you're going to be spraying and not spraying often. Now again, like I mentioned before, it is possible to jam paint if you, again, screwed up with cleaning your caps into that little pin mechanism. Again, it's possible to get out, but not always. And if you kind of get to that point, you might have broken your can. And like any acrylic paint, this stuff dries pretty quick. It's a lot faster than a lot of traditional spray paints, so if you need something to spray and then stay kind of puddly and soupy, this probably isn't the spray paint for you. But if you need something that'll just lay down a quick bit of spray and then keep going on top of the brush, then it probably is the paint for you. So whether you're a long-time canvas painter or a long-time spray paint artist, I do think that you should probably give the Liquitex spray paint line a try. I love the fact that you can kind of really look at the colors and look at the pigment information to know exactly what color you're getting out of that. You can't really do that with a lot of other color lines in other brands, and that's really something that I find to be really unfortunate, because when I'm looking for a new color and it just says like midnight black, and I'm like, okay, is that like the midnight black pigment? Then you go over here and it says candy red, and I'm like, that's not a color of paint. So despite a few quirks in the product itself, the Liquitex Professional Spray Paint definitely gets my seal of approval, and it's definitely a product I recommend you guys trying. If you've already tried this stuff before, let me know what you thought of it in comments below, as well as if I've inspired you to try it, and you're going to, let me know what colors you're going to get, because I'm interested to see what you guys can do with it. As always, if you learned something, be sure to hit that like button, consider supporting me on Patreon, get subscribed if you're not already, and this has been an episode of Blog Studios, and I will see you guys next time. I was lazy this week. This video should have been recorded like 4 days ago. It wasn't. I'm such a putz.